Please welcome to the stage Kerry, Flynn, and Jen Wong.
All right, so I guess I don't need to do an introduction, but thank you all for being here. Packed crowd for the last session of today.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending time with us, guys. So like I said, last session of the day, let's start with something fun. So Jen, we were supposed to have this conversation in March 2020. I guess that's not fun. That was an awkward lead into. We ended up having the conversation virtually in March 2021, and I asked Jen what her favorite subreddit was. And I believe you told me gardening?
I went very deep in gardening, yeah.
Well, tell me, now we're in 2023, what's your favorite subreddit?
So now I have another kid. I have a pandemic child, second child. So now I'm an r/declutter. r/declutter is one, and r/construction to try to get an extra bathroom. So getting a lot of advice on how to squeeze things together into a very small bathroom.
I should also spend time on there, and I don't have the kid excuse, but
I highly recommend declutter. It's pretty inspirational.
Awesome. Well, I did want to remind everyone here that we are leaving time for audience Q&A. So please also ask your own questions. Go to the South by Southwest Go app and ask away. So Jen, let's tell the audience a little bit more about you. You joined Reddit 5 years ago now.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, happy almost anniversary. What was your career prior to Reddit?
So prior to Reddit, I mostly worked in consumer media and tech. Really thinking about the content side. And Reddit is content. It's just user-generated content versus publisher content. And I worked at Time Inc. I worked at Pop Sugar Shop Style with a shopping search engine, turned around at AOL. And a life before that, I was a management consultant, which I don't talk about as much.
Well, and what attracted you to join Reddit? I mean, I'm guessing you were familiar with the product, hopefully, maybe was a user, but really 5 years ago, what drew you to want to be a part of it?
Well, I've been tracking Reddit for a long time. I don't know, how many of you use Reddit, are familiar with Reddit? Yeah, there we go. I figured this crowd would be heavy Reddit users. I mean, Reddit is a community of communities. It's this amazing place that's going to turn 18 years old this year. And it's this place where you can go and get information and talk to people about any topic on the planet. And I watched Reddit grow over the years, when I was working in consumer digital media. And when I got the call about Reddit hitting this point where Steve, our co-founder and CEO, had returned and sort of reset the platform and starting to think about creating a business model around it so that it could be self-sustaining, I got really, really excited because Reddit is so special. I mean, I used to watch all of the editors go on and pilfer Reddit for ideas, for the next meme, for ideas for social. And so I always knew Reddit was important culturally, and I got really excited about it. If you don't know, Reddit's mission is to bring community and belonging to everyone in the world. I think that's an incredible mission, incredibly important at this time, and that's very energizing. We are a very mission-driven company.
I didn't realize the 18 milestone as well. So Reddit is fully an adult almost.
Yeah, and it's gone through, the rough years of puberty too, so.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get too into that, but what we definitely want to talk about is what you just hit on, that community is really like our word of the day today. So let's set the stage what that actually means. I feel like every company says they're involved in community. How would you define it and how it's a part of Reddit?
Yeah, you could play like a drinking game with the word community sometimes.
I mean, I'm not saying don't.
I mean, it's funny, like 5 years ago when I joined, I think we always knew, in our parlance, like communities are the subreddits, and we are community first. Like we behave that way in terms of how we build product and how we operate every day. It's like so deep in our DNA. But when we started building a business and going to brands and marketers and talking about community, we were neither fish nor fowl then. I mean, I think people were like, oh, well, they're social. And then there's publishers. And then there's this community thing, which is Reddit. And it was kind of new. And so we kind of had to explain, well, what is community? It's a place where communities, they share a common goal, where people can go and talk to anybody in the community and feel like they can add value. And a place where there's a culture and a vibe, and where they feel like an emotional connection to the folks that they're surrounded by. And It's very different than like social media, which often is one to many. This is many to many. Very, very different dynamic. And so 5 years ago, we really embraced the word community and really tried to educate the market on what we were. It's the foundation of who we are. Now it's everywhere, but I think community is at the heart of what we've been doing for 18 years.
That totally makes sense. I mean, just personally as like a Reddit user, I don't use it to blast out like, my latest updates. Like that's what I use Twitter for. It makes sense, the uniqueness there. So I'm curious how you've seen community evolve at Reddit. Like you said, it's been the core of the company, but perhaps one example of community that I would imagine most people know is Wall Street Bets. I'd say that is a way that community really exploded really on the platform. But what other examples would you give about how community is really the strongest part of Reddit?
Well, it's funny, Wall Street Bets is probably what we're well known for in the last couple of years. It's not even a top 20 subreddit in terms of views. I think it barely cracks top 50 in terms of its followers or subscribers. It's pretty amazing. There are tons of really large communities on Reddit. And at any one moment, like a community might be having their Wall Street Bets moment. And that happens at the community level sometimes, and that happens at the individual level. So you might have, you think about The Last of Us, right? That whole franchise is having a moment, but wow, the executive producer coming in to the subreddit and saying, wow, I'm reading this because it's so positive. I'm just so touched by the fans. Or you have communities where people go in, in like r/cocktails. This like amazing story where somebody came into Reddit 12 years ago and started reading the subreddit, and now has opened a bar in Kansas that's been nominated for like a James Beard for this famous s'mores cocktail. I mean, that's the kind of magic that can happen on Reddit, both at the individual level and at the community level.
Well, I am an active user of or like community member of the Last of Us subreddit, but I haven't gone there today because I haven't watched the finale, so no one spoil it. So as you've been talking about, community, Reddit has changed. Our whole digital landscape has changed. Anecdotally, I'm seeing way more of my friends post privately and really have kind of more private group chats than like we talked about this like kind of like public conversation. How do you think online behavior has really evolved in recent years?
I think one dynamic that has emerged is a desire for like realness. And to complement everything else that you see on the internet with what do people really think? Like what's the real scoop on this product? What's the real scoop on what's the real another hot take on this topic or on this article? And that's what Reddit provides. I think a real complement to the other things that you see. So that's one, is just the desire for realness, like what people think. The second is a lot of social media is really one to many, and it's pretty manicured, right? People do have a controlled sense of the content that they upload to certain platforms because they're projecting a certain view of themselves. And that's very different on Reddit, where you're anonymous and it's a many-to-many conversation. Like most of our threads, it's not just one person blasting out to others to react to, it's people threading conversations from many different people. And if you look at the research actually around text and conversation, when you have many people have a conversation on a topic, that's actually when you can change minds. Because it doesn't feel like someone's shouting at you or being super dogmatic about one perspective. You really get a holistic view. And I think that's what makes Reddit and the community so special. And I think that's part of the change that people want, right? They want that realness. They want the many-to-many and many perspectives. And that is, I think, very unique in this environment. In addition, I think there's an increasing desire to be able to balance privacy and control your identity. Some places you want to be public, some places you want to be private. And there are different experiences in how you express yourself, how freely you are able to express yourself and be identified and connected with those inquiries and collecting information. And that's also something that is emerging, I think, more and more, and something where we're very different. So we've been around for 18 years. We've actually had all of these principles at the base of what we do the whole time. And I think had a couple years in there where we wondered, did we miss something? Like, because people didn't seem to value privacy or some of the anonymity or this kind of control. And now I think we see, no, it is there, and people do want this. And in fact, they're, I think, now really rushing for it.
Well, I wanted to dig a little deeper into the other part you were talking about, is like that some subreddits can go on forever and ever. There are so many people involved, so many threads. And we were actually joking about backstage when we were learning about how this tool works in front of us, the Slido tool, about how there's, that you can thumbs up. It's like kind of a democratized system where, again, please submit your questions, and then you can also vote on the questions of which shows up first. I'm wondering your perspective on how that's a core part of Reddit, and again, that's continued to be a part of it, and what impact that's really had on the platform.
And the platform is structurally very different. So for product folks, it fundamentally works differently. Any user, when you post a question or a piece of content or a thought, it has to go into a community, and it's first judged by that community, and it starts at 0. So it doesn't have guaranteed distribution or anything based on you having a lot of followers where you can just bomb other people. You can't do it. And it has to be good. It has to be upvoted enough that it actually gets out of the community so that others can see it. And every idea is judged independently. So not the person, the idea. In fact, it doesn't really matter who the person is, it's about the idea. So as a result, the quality of the ideas are really high because they're judged by people who understand gardening or understand, cocktails first, before that goes out to people who may not, know that area as well, but could benefit from that poster idea. So structurally, very, very different.
Yeah, it definitely interests me by the fact that the first thing you see on Reddit is not someone's follower account, and that's not what you really analyze. Sure, you can dig deeper into someone's profile, but that's not really the center about it. It's not about clout there.
No.
One thing I wanted to dig a little deeper into was how different generations use Reddit. So like we talked about, it's been around for 18 years. So I imagine, there's people like me who have been on there from the beginning and are not the youngest users of the platform. Tell me what you've noticed about, again, how millennials like me and how Gen Z use the platform differently, if at all.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll start with something that is common, which might be counterintuitive, which is text is not dead. People do enjoy reading and do enjoy writing, and the reason why is because there are only certain complex thoughts that you can express through words, and there are many, many things that people need information on or are dealing with that require words. So that is actually uniformly true. Is there growing video? Are there growing visuals? Yes, the whole trend of the internet, but it doesn't mean that text and reading is dead. And that's
thank God for my profession.
Yeah. And so I'll say that as a trend. The content that people access on Reddit changes by age group. So if you think about millennials now, folks are thinking about buying their first house, getting married, becoming a first parent, maybe dealing with aging parents, a specific life stages, and they're accessing those subreddits for support and for information. Whereas Gen Z is in a different stage of life. A lot of Gen Z is coming on to explore aspects of their identity. Who am I as a person? What are my political beliefs? What's my, who do I want to be in terms of work, et cetera? So, and that's very common on Reddit, that people come during a moment where their identity or they're forming an idea about themselves, which might be a specific thing like, hey, am I going to come out? Or it might be, hey, I'm a new parent. How do I deal with this as part of who I am? And so the content, I think, changes that people access. I'd say the second thing is that, in general, I think millennials did lead with a lot of, with a lens of friends and family. I think Gen Z, what we observed, doesn't necessarily lead with a need for an identified person. So it's very comfortable building relationships with people they don't know, but have some other affinity that they share. We all love gardening, or we all love making pizzas, right? Or we all have this experience. So a little different, and you can see that in the engagement and how they engage in some of the communities.
Well, like you said at the top, text is not dead, thank God. But in terms of the way different mediums, like, have evolved and how those different between the generations, like, feel like there's all this talk that Gen Z loves video and spends all their time watching videos. And I know that Reddit has videos, but so can you provide some insights in terms of, do you actually see that younger users watch videos more on Reddit, or is it?
Video's grown a ton on our platform, a lot more content submissions, and also the viewership has grown an order of magnitude for many years. So I'm not saying that video isn't enjoyed. Like, yeah, we obviously see the trends with, peer platforms, with TikTok, et cetera. Like, that's real. But it doesn't mean that people aren't reading, because there are thoughts and exchanges that still have to be done by text. So for example, if you go into a community like, what car should I buy, right? I mean, people lay out insane detail. That's not necessarily easy to do in video. Or for example, if you're looking for support, like that's something where text can provide a lot more nuance about somebody's personal experience, how they feel about a subject. So I think it's a complement across both. But I am a believer that text is not dead and is here to stay. And in fact, if you look at the world of AI, and everyone's talking about generative AI, like one of the areas that'll start is
15 minutes. We were supposed
I know.
to wait.
Oh, drinking game. Sorry.
No,
AI would be
continue.
the other one. Yeah.
Well, and I know I'm obviously glad you brought generative AI up, and I guess my question is whether or not, like, is Reddit's business totally screwed? Like, don't we just go to Reddit for answers to our questions? Like, and now I'm just like going to ChatGPT to ask my questions, right? So,
Where do you think they get their answers from? That's for another day, but.
Wow, we can dig into the legal issues later. But I guess I'm just wondering, like, what you think about that, and too, like, how Reddit has explored AI, if you have.
I mean, I think it's early, but I mean, AI has incredible potential, right, to increase the productivity of everybody in the way that they work, as well as improve the user experience, instead of hunting and pecking, but having some synthesis or some direction, some layer of direction on top of a corpus of information. So all of those things, I think, are incredible for productivity and experience. But at the heart of it, to train the brain, you still have to have a corpus of knowledge. And that knowledge comes from humans. And I think one of the most amazing things about Reddit is that it is this animate corpus, 18 years old, that changes every day, every year, that reflects all the things that all of you are thinking about. And that is the most powerful part that I think will distinguish any kind of AI. Like, ultimately, the human imagination, the experience, and putting those things together. And that's what we have.
So what you're saying is you guys will continue to exist because you are the platform that brings all this knowledge together.
I think it's one of the best places to share it, and a place that has very, very unique views on everything in the world.
And so do you expect a check from, like, the companies doing ChatGPT soon? Or?
Let me get my crystal ball out now.
Well, one thing we haven't talked about is just the reasons, like, we talked about the reasons people go to Reddit, but whether or not they've changed, right? Like, I just, joked to you about, like, whether or not they're going to be threatened, and actually no one will want to go to Reddit anymore. But I'm wondering, like, again, over those 18 years, and especially obviously the 5 years you've been there, about whether or not there's different use cases for Reddit.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think, like I mentioned, people go through life stages. Well, the human experience does have a lot of commonalities in it. So our audience is actually like a bell curve. We do get people, who at the beginning of this moment when they're thinking about their identity, so high school, college, for sure. That's a big entry point. But we retain people because they continue to go through iterations in their life, like becoming a parent, buying a car, buying a house, et cetera. So it is this bell curve. And the corpus, the communities have incredible information that is not valuable just in the moment, but it has long-term value. So you can access posts from 5 years ago. It's all open, and still have it be helpful to you, because in the end, parent and child relationships, in my experience, there's a lot of commonality.
That makes sense. Well, one thing we haven't talked about is, well, besides what I said, maybe we'll get checks in the future from generative AI companies, is money and like how Reddit makes money, right? So back in the day, I feel like I was just posting there and it was fun. And I guess, I didn't really see, there was clearly a lot of engagement there, so you would hope that the company makes money. Walk us through kind of that journey for Reddit.
Yeah, well, that was the opportunity when I joined 5 years ago. It's so rare that you have a platform that has such a large audience that's so engaged, but doesn't yet have a business to sustain itself. And it's important that Reddit sustain itself because it has a very important mission for everybody in the world. In order to do that, like you want to have control your own destiny. So our first business is advertising. And you might say, wait a second, Jen, you talked about privacy and you talked about control over identity, and there's been so much controversy in the advertising world about that. Well, I think we've built a business that is in harmony with our values. Our targeting is not based on tracking people all around the internet. It's not about demographics as the center. It's about where you spend your time in the communities, therefore expressing what's interesting to you, so interest-based targeting or community-based targeting, that then makes sense for us to match with a marketer. And the fundamental proposition is people come to Reddit to actually be informed, right? They're answering a question, they're doing research, they're connecting with somebody. Well, that's effectively what our advertising is. It's an advertiser, a brand, somebody, a product or service sharing more information with that person about their product or service.
Well, I think we learned earlier that actually most people in the room use Reddit, but do you mind giving, for the few people that don't, what do the ads actually look like on there? How would I see a brand appear?
They're pretty basic. They look like a post. I mean, they have a card, a picture, a video, and a text title. Some of them show up in conversations, so in the comment thread, and those are in context. And the bar is not, you don't have to do anything particularly special to get great performance out of the ads on Reddit. And actually, we have both performance-based and brand-based advertising on the platform. Both do really well. We're actually full funnel. And we play this outsized role in consideration, which is the moment when you're doing intensive research, like, okay, this vacuum or this vacuum, and you're trying to make a decision to move yourself toward purchase. That's where we play an outsized role because of the trust in all of the community. So it's not like you have to make custom creative. Obviously, when you make the effort to, let's say, do an Ask Me Anything and invest in a community by bringing an expert.
For those who don't know, maybe Ask Me Anything, can you share that?
Yeah, so we have this community, we have a community and we have a sort of a format called Ask Me Anything where an expert might come on and say, you know what, for the next 30 minutes, community ask me questions, I'm gonna answer them. Bill Gates does it every year. Keanu Reeves just did it. The chef from Chipotle did it. I mean, there are a lot of experts who come on and just share their knowledge and just answer questions from the community. And it displays your knowledge. It shows that you care about what other people think. You might get product ideas. You might get feedback about your service. You might get, fans coming out of curiosity. I mean, it's an incredible, very unique to Reddit experience.
So I guess a simple question that I'm going to add a caveat to, why do brands want to be on Reddit? And the caveat being that, there's really been this concern from when I talk to advertisers and brands about being on social media, right? There's, like we talked about, it's people like me just posting whatever they want to talk about. And, maybe not everything is rated G or PG, So I'm curious about how you've, had those conversations with advertisers and brands and really, made them want to think and understand that Reddit is the place to be?
Well, I would say in the world of UGC, that's true in every place, right? And philosophically, from a marketing strategy perspective, you have to decide whether that's an opportunity or whether you're going to run in fear of it. And I would say, I think there's a bigger opportunity than there is a reason to avoid it. I mean, some of those are real thoughts. It doesn't mean that you have to be next to them. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to address them directly there. But it's a good thing to know that those thoughts are out there. That's the reality. Now, the vast majority of content on Reddit is actually fans. It's mostly people who are really excited about your products and services. Yes, are there people who have critical thoughts? Sure, but that's the reality of the world. And that's the opportunity in terms of engaging with the communities to actually talk to everybody on equal footing and say, let me explain, right? When the Chipotle chef went on in an AMA, there was a question about like, why didn't you scale the queso? Why didn't you scale like shrimp tacos? And it was like, well, it's really hard to do. And you can be very real about your challenges. So I think it's more of an opportunity versus something that I would coil in fear of. Reddit's a safe platform. We have a very unique approach to governance. Every platform does it differently, but we have not only a set of rules that we enforce, every community has a set of rules that they enforce. And the moderators, like human volunteer moderators, know the nuance of that community, and they make sure that the conversation stays on topic. And then on top of that, we have a whole bunch of rules and choices that advertisers can make in terms of where they want to place their ads. So, I mean, I feel very comfortable that Reddit is a safe place where brands feel like they have a lot of control over how they want to execute their campaign and who they want to talk to.
No, that makes sense, especially that uniqueness of Reddit, of those, like you said, the community-based human moderation doing their own work. Question I'm hoping you can answer for me. Has Elon Musk's takeover of Reddit been, or takeover of Twitter been,
Not
yet.
I missed the
breaking
news.
Sorry. Okay, Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter, has that been positive for Reddit based off of what we were just talking about? Have you actually seen more interest from brands perhaps taking away their money from there to you guys?
You know, I don't actually spend a lot of time thinking about that. I know that might seem odd, but like we spend a lot of time, because Reddit's so different anyway, and our view is like Reddit wins by being itself, because we are different than everybody else. That's true about how we build our platform for our users and communities, and that's true about how we build our advertising business. Ultimately, we win if we do a great job of connecting marketers to highly engaged, high-intent users who are seeking information about their products and services based on the interest that they have expressed by spending time in the communities. Like that is our job, and I think our business, I've been very happy with its growth, I think grows because we do that really well and do it better and better every year with all the things we invest in our platform and in our sales team and in our core product.
So the answer is yes. Well, and so to get a little idea of like what you're talking about, the brands that are with you on Reddit, you mentioned the example of Chipotle, right? So like a fun food brand. What other types of companies gravitate towards Reddit?
I mean, we had Adidas, who did a really great campaign with experts. They did videos for this new high-performance running shoe, like 4D Forward, which gets into like the design, like you can really nerd out on the craft, right? The design of the shoe, the 3D printing, like all of the details for Adidas. That's the kind of thing that you can do on Reddit that really, I think, is unique, right? You can get into all and people can nerd out about the design of it, how it was actually crafted, and you can show off all the thought that went into your product and service to basically seed, in that case, like, wow, why is this a high-performance shoe? Because of all this thought that went into the design of it, and spark that excitement in the communities who are the experts and who are the thought leaders in actually going deep on, running shoes.
So is the answer then that potentially like any brand could be good on Reddit? Because I feel like there are people in this world who will obsess about anything.
That's exactly right. I mean, we think every brand can be on Reddit. And I think there are a lot more brands today that can be on Reddit. The good news is every day we do have new brands on Reddit, which has been great to see. But there's still more brands that can be on Reddit because, again, we cover every topic. We have 100,000 communities covering every topic with incredible depth and expertise. So that's the opportunity ahead of us. That's still ahead of us. But it's been exciting to see all of these new folks come on in, certainly over the last year, even in this environment.
So you touched on this earlier about how, privacy is a big part of Reddit. Consumer privacy is clearly at the core, and the fact that you can be anonymous. But there's been a lot of talk about privacy affecting the ad market, right? So essentially, companies like Apple enacting privacy changes that, again, respecting consumers' privacy, but making ads less effective. Meta has been super outspoken about how that's really changed their business. I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about Reddit, again, if that's really had a major impact on your business.
It hasn't. I mean, we have not had signal loss because we were not tracking people all around the internet and had that spigot cut off. So we never did that. It's not a part of our business. It's not, like I said, we're building an ad business that's in harmony with our values. So no signal loss in terms of performance. And actually for us, we've been increasing the performance of our platform because, we're still building it. So every time we, have our ML team and improve our product, we're actually delivering more performance for our advertisers. And, so it's not something that, we've seen any material impact from. And I don't expect that.
That's good. You're in a good place. Great.
Well, remember, we do interest-based targeting, right? So it's about where you spend your time. And where we're going is contextual targeting, right? The environment of the community that you're spending time in, the conversations that you're spending time in, that is very differentiated. And I think the arc of marketing, we kind of went down this road of going very, very deep in kind of stalking people and their demographics and every single thing they did all across the internet. And people forget, I think, contextual matters, like what room you're in, with who, in what mindset, in what feeling, like that matters to your state in receptivity and openness to messages. And, that's going to be a part of our proposition.
Yeah, it makes sense. I feel like it harkens back to your old job working at Time Inc., right? Working at a magazine publisher where ads were just about
Context matters.
What the magazine, yeah. Well, so for any brand or advertiser in the room who has perhaps, like I said earlier, maybe not wanted to dive into Reddit for reasons we discussed, what's one piece of advice you would give them about how to start on Reddit? Like I imagine, we talked about AMAs, right? Those, I don't know, it feels like they require a lot of work. Like what can you do if you just want to jump in on Reddit?
I would say, don't start from a place of fear, and also what I would consider some of the myths about Reddit. Being 18 years old, there are myths that we've had to bust, and most of them have really not been true.
Are you naming names? What?
No, I'm just, look, I would say it's an opportunity. This is a moment where, actually, right now, when there's a change in the market, there's an incredible amount of share shifting. I think most marketers I know are really thinking about, okay, how do I drive efficiency and ROI? And there are also changes in the market landscape. ATT is one, and privacy changes, et cetera, that are making folks reevaluate their portfolio on what's effective for them. And that's an incredible opportunity. And new platforms like us are untapped opportunities for your marketing mix, right? One, because we're early and there's definitely pricing advantage, but also because we play a different role in the portfolio where you can get a 1 + 1 = 3 effect. So I really encourage people to try it, I would say. The second is, it's really easy to activate. It might seem hard, or some people have fear where they're like, wow, the community is so smart, and they're, what if they don't like me, and this kind of fear of it. But the reality is, we help with the targeting. When you target the right communities, if anything, what happens is they pile on. They get excited and they radiate out your ideas and the excitement about the things that you've shared. And the bar for creative is not high. Honestly, it's simple. It can be something visual, and it can be just a text-based headline. That's a question. Just asking a question, if you want, it could lead to a great set of engagement. So I would just say there are a lot of myths that sometimes create barriers to starting, but more and more we're seeing just advertisers jump in, because this is an incredible moment of reconfiguration and opportunity. And the results that they're seeing are, in some cases, I think absolutely shocking to them, that our performance is really significant in their portfolio.
No, that's great that you have those case studies that you can shoot. The numbers are there. So I want to ask one more question before. I see we have 20 questions, so I wanted to leave a lot of time and also remind people that there's still time to ask questions if you want to. But I did want to end right now on Reddit is gearing up for a big 2023. The company confidentially filed its paperwork for an IPO at the end of 2021. What can you tell me about it? I say
Let me
big
get my crystal ball again, and I don't know, what does it say?
All right, so you can tell me nothing. Okay, great. Okay, well, we're up to 22 questions. So we'll see. Okay, I'm going to read these out. You mentioned group combos encourage people to change views, but subreddits often become echo chambers. How are you working to improve this? That's a great question.
So I think it is true that some subreddits can have a specific point of view, and actually some are built to have that. But more often than not, if you look at the research, and Pew and a number of folks have done the research on Reddit and specifically the feed, it's actually the platform among all the peers that actually has the most diversity of opinion exposed to users. So even if a subreddit might have a specific point of view, what you see in your feed and you experience on Reddit is actually quite diverse. And we're very thoughtful about that. So your experience on Reddit is different than, it is more diverse and therefore less of an echo chamber. And that's been proven numerous times. And so, we're very thoughtful about that as we represent data and make sure that it is diverse in terms of points of view. Most subreddits, though, tend to, because of the conversation format, have multiple points of view. It's pretty rare that you go into a post and you don't have somebody going back and forth. And that's the advantage of many to many. One to many is a place where you can blast a lot of people with one point of view.
Well, and like you said, too, how anyone can participate in the conversation.
That's right.
There's no limit. There's
right.
if they're open. So it seems to be also that was one of those myths of Reddit that you were dispelling. Yes. Great. Next question. Do brands have a place on Reddit? Have any successfully leveraged Reddit to connect with communities? We obviously talked about this a lot, but maybe use it to share like another example of a great campaign.
Yeah, it's a great example. So there are organizations and brands that spend time on Reddit. Even before they move into paid advertising, they'll engage organically. This happens with streamers like Netflix or HBO, like folks who are engaging with fan communities. It's very organic. Or sometimes there's leagues, right, or teams who are spending time with their fans. And I'd say that the common action that really works is, number one, think about this as like arriving at a dinner party, right? When you show up to a dinner party, what's like a very human behavior? You introduce yourself nicely, you assess the context, like who are these people, what's the environment, you ask questions to be curious about the other folks, you kind of respond to what they're talking about. You don't come in and just start screaming at them with your own agenda, right? So don't do that on
I don't know.
Just be very human and civil. And if you use those basic human principles that you'll use in real life, you'll be fine.
Right. Okay, just be a normal human. That's
normal
great. I did ask about this, and this is a great question. What do you guys do to combat misinformation? I know you talked about how there are a lot of rules on Reddit and within communities as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have a very unique structure of governance. And one of the things that's very unique about Reddit, beyond the layers of moderation that I talked about, where the community can also assess the conversation for nuance, is that we have a community structure. And if a community itself is misbehaving or breaking our rules, we can actually remove that community. And that means that that context of bad behavior goes away. Now, those people might stay on Reddit. They might be fathers, mothers, auto enthusiasts, where they have really good behavior, but we took out the environment in which there might be a temptation to have bad behavior. And that's very unique to Reddit because we have this community structure. It doesn't exist in other places. So if you look at Reddit over the last couple of years, it's been actually relatively quiet. The elections have been, we've had debate, that makes sense, but we haven't had acrimony on the platform. It's actually been very peaceful. And we haven't had, we took QAnon off, I think it was 2018, a long time ago, because we could take out the community, take out that behavior, and not have it on the platform. So very, very different. I hope you all feel that. This is one of those myths. It really is one of those myths where people, I think, and again, maybe because of our long history and sometimes wild past, I think people think that might still be true, but it's really changed, I think, a lot with the work that we've done in our content policy. And I think our governance and the structure that we have is really proving to be pretty differentiated.
I feel like when I talk about misinformation with other platforms, they just like talk about, it's whack-a-mole, right? You're like constantly having to like fight, different bots or real humans like spewing misinformation. Does it not feel like, you feel very calm right now? You're like, Reddit has it under control. Like that's true.
I do feel like we're doing a good job. Like I can't say it's perfect. We're always making our system and like how we approach it better. But I think if you look over, I mean, certainly my time at Reddit over the last 5 years, I feel really good about our track record here. And certainly when you look at us compared to other peers and the things that they've faced, look, I think we were ahead on a number of things like QAnon, et cetera. So, we'll continue to evolve our system and make it better, but it is really, really different, right? The people who moderate our subreddits, they are really invested in Reddit. And they've really invested in their subreddits above all else. And that partnership between us and the moderators is very different and very special. And I think we are all held accountable for the integrity of the platform.
This is a perfect follow-up question that Reddit is known for being a place of free speech. How and when do you decide a subreddit needs to shut down?
I mean, it's just part of our process. We obviously look at whether a subreddit is breaking our rules, right? That there's a reason why they're there. So we look for evidence and data of breaking the rules. That's really where we start. And if they are breaking our rules, then we will take action. And there can be cases where they're breaking our rules or where there's not appropriate, moderation in the community. That's also, grounds for taking action as well. I think it's a balance, right? Because and banning communities is, I think, some of the hardest decisions that we make are around banning communities, because we do believe in open dialogue. I mean, that's the foundation of a democracy, and Reddit is really modeled on a democracy where people have, equal weight and start with their ideas and posts, and they earn based on merit, distribution on Reddit and more eyeballs and visibility. So we want to preserve that. And we think that dialogue is, why I think all of you are there for that content and the real thoughts. We want to preserve that as much as possible. But when that comes into conflict with safety or something that violates our rules, like, we take action. And there, it's very clear. Like, we are clear about our rules, no harassment, unwanted sexualization, the doxing, very clear about our rules.
We talked about, election misinformation, politics, and obviously conspiracy theories like QAnon. What about COVID? I'm wondering if that just feels like it was a big issue for other platforms. And I don't remember hearing that much about Reddit. And I'm wondering how you were able to kind of get out of the news.
We were really early in actually identifying, r/coronavirus was a really large community in January of 2020. And by April, I think it was 3 or 4 million subscribers. It really exploded, and it was a really important place. It was really important because think about the beginning of 2020 when it all started. We didn't know. There was a moment do you wear masks? Do you not wear masks? Is it airborne? Is it on packages? There was a lot of confusion and lack of understanding about, this virus, this novel virus. And I think that's an example of, there wasn't, at that moment, it wasn't active disinformation or even active intentional misinformation. There was just confusion and people trying to sort through that. And Reddit's actually pretty good at moments like that, where they put the questions or the facts on the table and people debate it. And I actually think that's a great example of people being able to access information and critical thoughts back and forth in a very ambiguous environment. And I think that's very unique to us. So I actually think we did a very good job in supporting people through through COVID. And then they came and were able to access okay, how do I deal with my partner when I'm stuck at home with them and my kids are driving me bananas and all of that, and me with gardening to keep myself sane. Then you got all of that too.
Oh, that makes sense. Great. Next question. A major problem Reddit had to work through was balancing of moderation. How do you think about the evolution of mods at Reddit, mods being short for moderation, before versus now versus future?
People love to talk about moderation.
So we're talking about the community element of moderation.
Yeah, look, I think we have invested, over the last couple of years. I think we've done a better job of investing behind tools for our moderators so that they can do more and can achieve achieve the goals that they want for their community, which in some cases go beyond places of altruistic conversation. I think there are aspirations to have IRL impact and raise money and do other things, and that's very much on our minds, is to how do we unleash that for our communities, and how do we help moderators help their communities achieve those things. And that's sort of where the future of Reddit is an evolution from just conversation to more action. I feel good about how we support mods. I think there's still more that we can do because they do an incredible amount of work in order to keep the communities healthy and safe and the quality of content very high. But they will always be, a cornerstone of Reddit and a very unique aspect of our platform.
When you say do more, do you mean like paying people? Like, I feel like there's been a lot of conversation about like revenue sharing on things like that.
I think, our first business model is ads, but we do see the opportunity for users and for communities to earn money on Reddit, not money that is, paid by us to them, but to have an economy between people. And you see this. We've started this work. It's early with the avatars and the digital goods that you can buy for your Snoovatar. There are creators and artists who have made digital goods that are purchased by other users that we've helped facilitate. And that's just one example of what's possible. People today are buying luxury watches from each other with somebody they don't even know. They are buying all sorts of products. They're buying services. They're buying photoshopped, improved, colorized pictures from each other. I mean, it's incredible what's already happening. There is an economy on Reddit. It's just not supported by our product today, frankly. But we want to do that. We want to unleash that. So it's early in crafting that in a fulsome way, but we are making progress against what I think our communities want. Like, they're telling us they want to do this. And I think it's our responsibility to make that happen.
Yeah, I think that digital avatar piece is really interesting. That's happening. Again, it's something that you're currently experimenting with, but to the question for the future, you want to grow that side of it. Next question was on tips on starting their own community page on the product for companies that want to start their own page. What are the top 3 tips to make it safe and engaging?
Okay, well, number one, if you're going to start it, I would say make sure you really understand the platform. And that's like, I'd say that's like level 3 is going to making a community. You might want to just start at level 1, which is listening and understanding what people think about your brands and services. Where are your fans? What communities? How do they talk? What are the vibes and cultures of those communities? And I'd say in step 1 also, beyond listening, you want to have some interaction that might be commenting or responding, right? And then you might move to posting. You might be saying, you know what, I am now a member of this community and I'm going to start a conversation. I might ask questions. I might start to benefit from being a part of this community and contribute in an even bigger way. And if you're successful in doing those things, then I think you can graduate to, you know what, I'm actually going to start my own community. And maybe I do that with other moderators or et cetera. And maybe that's for customer service, or maybe that's to discuss and get answers to certain questions on products and service, et cetera. All of those things are possible, but I would just say grade your way into it. And by the way, that's the journey of an average user on Reddit. That's how it starts. You're reading, you're getting comfortable, you know the vibe, you comment, you vote, you then craft an idea, you become part of the, contribute in a bigger way, and then you might graduate to being a moderator of a community or splinter off a community that has like a specific, view or agenda. So just, I'd say each of those things.
Do you have like another example of a good like brand community, like where it's monitored and run by a specific brand?
We have cases where, there are some publishers that do that, for example.
Perfect segue into the next question.
And there are also, if you think about there are communities that are also sort of active partnerships, they already exist, right? So if you think about Netflix, for example, they go in and they actually talk to their community. And the community has volunteer moderators, but they're active in there and present, part of the community. This happens a lot in gaming communities, right? So gaming communities, they obviously operate on their own, like pick a franchise, Fortnite or Overwatch, et cetera. But sometimes they come in, they say, they'll say, okay, I'm going to share some advanced notes on my next release, or I'm going to come in and talk about the character. I mean, think about like Craig, I'm going to butcher his last name, Mazin or Mazin, who from The Last of Us, like. You can go in and have a conversation and say, wow, let's talk about the plot. What did you like the best, about this franchise? Like, those things are very unique, and you don't necessarily have to start the community from scratch. You can enter the community and actually become a part of it. So that happens a lot, frankly. And so that's what I would say, grade yourself into it little by little, just like you would in real life, at a party, at an event. You don't come in guns blazing. You really come in and listen, learn, become a part of the group, and then you might take a more leadership role.
So this next question kind of speaks to what you were saying. Where do you see the advantage of media outlets to grow a community on Reddit rather than building a community on their own website? I think that's especially interesting. As someone who works at a publisher, there's always these internal navigations of how much you invest on your owned and operated systems versus using platforms like Reddit, which are external but clearly very powerful.
I mean, I would just say, like, I worked in the world of media for a long time, and there was like this tension between always wanting conversation and comments at the bottom of your stories and reactions, and then fears of like poorly moderated comments. It was like always this tension between the two. And in the end, I think the world has shaken out where there's barely comments on most media outlets because moderation is just not the forte of most publishers. And I think that that's okay. I think that that's okay because moderation is really important to having quality conversation. Some of that spills over to like Twitter, and a lot of that spills over to us, where you have a third-party link, it's to a publisher, a news article, and there's a lot of conversation in detail debating what's in it at the bottom. And I would just say, the way to do that is to ensure that you're sparking conversation on the platform. So part of that might be, hey, I see that someone has attributed a link to my media outlet, et cetera, and I'm a journalist, and I might go in there and answer some questions. Or it might be, hey, I as a media outlet, I'm going to start sharing more outlets or more links to things that are interesting. Or it might be, and this is actually a top category for our Ask Me Anythings, journalists and writers going in and saying, ask me anything about this story that I wrote, and let me give you the background on it so that I can share my process in more detail, and you can learn more about how I collected the facts, how I shaped the story that builds credibility about the knowledge base from, of that media outlet. So those are all different things that can be done. I do think it's really hard to do it on property. It's so different than writing. I mean, you know this better than I do.
Like you said, that like most outlets have pulled back from that. I feel like one of the only like big outlets that really haven't continued to invest is like the New York Times, like still has comments, and the cooking community comments are great. But I know it's a lot to manage, and so I get that they're there. And I mean, we're having like a ask me anything right now. Clearly, there's a powerful element to, like you said, being able to just ask an individual person questions, right? Back to like being fearful of using Reddit. Some federal government agencies are afraid to create a Reddit presence. Any suggestions on selling the importance of using Reddit to a public affairs office? I'm like very curious, like what federal government agent is at this panel right now. But do you have an answer for him or her?
Like I said, like I don't think coming from a place of fear is sensible with Reddit, but in general, I don't think it's a good thing as a basis of any strategy. Reddit is a place of discussion. Those are real thoughts that people have, and they are very thoughtful. And it's better to know what people think to be able to engage in the conversation. Remember what I said before. Reddit is a place that has a lot of text and many-to-many conversation. That's actually how you change minds. So if you want to change minds, you have to engage at that level. You can't just blast people with videos and not respond to it. So I think that is really important. In a place where people are open and actually collecting information, that's the right place for you to engage. And I think that that is definitely one of the myths of Reddit that we continue to try to dispel.
Great. Well, I hope find me after, whoever you are. How does Reddit see new competitors in the community space, such as Heartbeat and others? I will admit that I don't know what Heartbeat is, so I hope you do.
I'm not as familiar with Heartbeat.
Okay, well, please find us also after to tell us what that is.
So I'll actually, let me give you, I'll share with you a little bit the history of Reddit, which is, we've been around for 18 years, and during that time, I mean, if you imagine what happened, it was like the rise of social media, the invention of the mobile phone, and the explosion of video, and none of those things have had any effect on our growth. We just continue to grow and increase in influence in terms of our corpus. The volume of content, the quality of the content, the importance of the content, and our user base. So I'll just tell you, I don't believe that, like, we don't worry about direct competition so much. Like, time is a real thing, but features and functionality is not something that we worry about. And because the pixels on the page are one thing, but what's behind it are a set of principles and values that are really the bedrock of Reddit. It's the trust between the community and us. It's the fact that users are empowered on Reddit. They build everything, and they have such a strong say, they and the communities, in everything that happens on Reddit. They get to give us feedback on the product. They get to give us feedback on our policies. We get to have a dialogue about, you know, how they're doing enforcement, how we're doing enforcement. All of that is a partnership. That's radically different. I can't think actually of another company that works that way, because it's really, really hard. Like, it would be easier to just be paternalistic and release product and not have a dialogue about it, or to not have to have a whole other stakeholder and partner in it. But we do that because, you know, the Reddit, the platform is great because every single thing has been built by users. So we don't, you know, I don't want to sound arrogant that there isn't competition, but over the years, many of our peer platforms have taken features of Reddit, the downvote, the threaded conversation, and incorporated that into their platform with no success. Because at the end, it's really about the values and the way that we operate, these principles, even more than the pixels.
Well, I wanted to push that back on that a little bit, and the fact that you guys have, like, you know, taken some lessons from competitors. So you announced, or like it came out earlier, that you're creating like a TikTok-esque video feed. It also came out that you're discontinuing your Clubhouse-like live audio feature. So, you know, those are two different changes that, from my understanding, have been like inspired by competitors.
Yeah, and I think it's a good question. So, you know, why are we thinking about separating watch from, like, the other half of that is like, when you separate watch, it's because it enables people to focus on reading, which is very core to Reddit, right? So it's not just that we're trying to create an immersive video experience that matches somebody else. It's also because we want to preserve and enhance the reading experience. So it goes along, those, you know, those things are two sides of the same coin. They go together. And that is very unique to Reddit. Right? I mean, I will say, I think that when we, you know, I think there is sometimes a temptation to mimic like other features. And in the end, I think we do best when we build with our community in mind first. And right now, what that is about connecting people to communities and content that is answering their questions and giving them helpful information as fast as possible. If we do that, that is how we grow. Whether it's in video, whether it's in text, it doesn't matter. It's about connecting people to their home, like finding another home, which is a subreddit that has meaning to them.
Why do you think that live audio component didn't work? Was it you just used the word timely, right? You're getting information timely. Was that a part of it? Was it moderation issues? Like, why sunset that?
Yeah, I think that medium is very different than I think what a lot of communities wanted to operate in. You know, and if you think about it, like, live is very specific, requires you to all be there at the same time. And while there is a place for that, actually, for us, if you think about the threaded conversation, one of the things that's amazing is that it's asynchronous, but it's very rapid. Like, if you ask a question on Reddit, it's asynchronous, but wow, does it feel fast. You get an answer usually in an average subreddit in like 2 hours. You're starting to get quality answers. So I don't think that synchronous is required for the magic of Reddit.
That makes sense. Well, I feel like that's the perfect note to end on. Thank you for joining us for our live audio in real time conversation today. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.